Good morning, everybody. We had a nice, good, heavy little rain come through this morning about 5:30, and I thought I would just go ahead and do my little garden tour today. This is my new front yard. So much different than it was when we moved in. Tomorrow will be April 28th, and that will be exactly 4 months since we moved onto our new property. And y'all, it has been a job. I've done a lot of work, but also it's just been a joy. It's just been a joy. And I really did not appreciate the transformation until I went on my own channel a couple days ago and I saw a video that I had made called We're Home. And it showed what it looked like the week we moved in. And oh my gosh, it was like desolate. It was desolate. And then I looked at another video where I showed you when we got all our trees trimmed and things like that. And it was prettier that day, but still the property was bare. It was just bare. And I've been thinking about it. Because I'm no master gardener. But I think what has happened is just life. Just life. This property is being brought back to life. It was loved very much at some point, I could tell. But those people passed away. And then there was a little time gap before we bought the property. And it needed some life and some love. And that's what I've tried to give it. I'm going to walk you around and we'll just talk just a little bit. One of the best things I did was put these steps off the side of my porch. I cannot tell you how much time they've saved me. It just makes a big difference. Even just going to feed the dogs and doing ordinary things. Not just about gardening, but about gardening as well. It's just saved me so many steps. And then I have my little wood chip walkway here. It's probably just going to stay that way for a while. This is my little jicama area back here. And it's slow. I don't know much about these plants, but I'm just going to tell you, it's slow. This right here is one coming up. That's one coming up. And there's one there. Oop. Ooh, another little one this morning. They are not in a hurry. I think the packet said 7 to 21 days for them to come up. But I can tell you, they're not in a hurry. They have a 4 to 9 month growing period, so it's not a big shock that the germination is taking a long time. But the ones that are coming up look healthy, and if they're going to grow and end up getting a 20-foot vine and everything else, at some point they're going to get very vigorous. So we'll see how it goes. These are my Cabarrica beans. They're blooming. They're coming along. They've got little blooms on them. They'll get taller than this. Some of these plants will start blooming and then all of a sudden they'll just kind of grow. They'll grow and set off beans. And these set off a really pretty pod that's gorgeous to look at for a while. Seems like it had some purple streaking on it. And then when the beans actually get ready to pick, I'm not actually going to pick them. I'm going to let them go to seed and dry and save seeds. So I'm just going to be able to enjoy these for a good while before the seed pods are dry and everything. And then I'll pull them up and do something else. Probably going to put a bush bean or something there. Got all my little plants coming up. Here's some squash. These aren't doing wonderful, but they'll hit it here shortly. I've got cucumbers. Every other one is cucumbers. And then there's my artichoke plants right there. And they've all of a sudden decided to kind of get going. They sat for a while. They had no desire to jump out and be the front runners. They've sat. Right here, I had planted Kajari melons. And as you know, I lost both of them in the freeze. I came back and I put more Kajari melon seeds just straight in the ground. I had started with transplants. I ended up direct seeding. Well, those seeds never came up. So I decided to just try something different instead of sticking with that same seed. And I planted some called Golden Beauty Casaba melons. I had gotten those from a brand new seed company and I was dying to try them, but I just noticed this morning, there they are, they're coming up. I don't see them yet there, but hopefully they'll come up shortly. They're called Golden Beauty Casaba melons. I ordered them from a company called Burrell Seeds, and that's a new company I've never dealt with, and I'm excited to just try to grow some of their seeds. And I might do a little show one day talking about how I found Burrell Seeds. I found them in the glossary of a book I bought, and the book was about melons. And I'm gonna do a little more research on Burrell, and I'm gonna do maybe a book review on that book here shortly and give you some information. And the glossary in it is just chock full of seed companies I had never heard of, and I've already ordered from 2 of them, Burrell and another one that's up in Pennsylvania, and I loved them. I love the variety and the seeds, and so it's just interesting. I love finding new seed companies to deal with. My gray zucchinis are looking a lot better than my squash. I look for them to just kind of bust forth here shortly. I did not diagram this garden very well on my sheet, and I cannot remember what I planted right here. It may be more gray zucchini, or it may be white scallop squash. I can't remember. My General Lee cucumbers, they still look small, but in the last week they've decided to get some bigger leaves on them and to kind of start sprouting. For a while there, they just kept their first couple of leaves, then their 2 smaller leaves came on. But now, especially this one down at the end, it's decided it wants to grow. So I'm looking forward to having some of those big green General Lee cucumbers. And then my Grandma Nellie's yellow mushroom beans, y'all. These are the most vigorous little beans. Probably the only ones that have done this good on my property so far are the Scarlet Emperor runner beans that I planted by my porch. They took off like crazy. But these Grandma Nellie's yellow mushroom beans, man, they're just wanting to grow. They're wanting to grow. I'll finish the little tour of the front yard before I move to the corn patch. This is the French sorrel that I planted on either side of my statue. It's looking all right now. I haven't harvested any of it yet. I kind of just forget about it. I don't know why. I need to get in here. It looks like some worms or something maybe getting in here on it, so I need to kind of pay it a little more attention. But it did come up really good. This is South Louisiana. It's French sorrel. It came up fine for me. It's not something that's normally, I don't think, grown around here. But if you live around here and you want to try it, it did really good for me. My Ford Hook gems are starting to sprawl. And I love when melons and all put off these little tendrils and stuff. That just means they're happy and they're starting to sprawl, and that you can look for some more vine growth when you see those. I'm looking so forward to being able to have a Ford Hook gem this year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. If I can keep the rabbits, the squirrels, and the deer out of them, I want to eat one. I just want to try one. I actually learned about them in that book I was telling you about just a minute ago. It's called The Melon. So I need to do that. I need to do a little review on that book. It's very, very interesting. In the middle, I have some Swiss chard growing and some pretty zinnias coming up. I'm trying to kind of mix things so that I can have a variety. I think it does better for the plants for them to have other things growing around them. I didn't necessarily do that in every bed, but I'm trying in this one. And also, I had lost a Ford Hook gem that got kind of snapped by, not saying who, but maybe that's a possibility. And so I came back, and right here, and right over there, I planted some more of those Casaba Golden Beauty melons, and they haven't come up over here yet. I don't think I planted these until a few days after I planted those other ones. So they're not coming up here yet, but I'm hoping to have those melons growing around this side of this little bed, and then my Ford Hook gems over there. That'd be great. Leaving my melon bed, Check on my cushaws, my green cushaw pumpkins. Winter squash. I've got one growing there that's more elongated. And then the one growing over here looks more like what I think of when I talk about a green striped cushaw pumpkin. I don't think it really matters how it grows, just that it's growing. And I've got two more that I planted later coming up there. I'm getting a lot of mushrooms everywhere. Look at all those mushrooms on that stump. I've got some huge ones coming up in another bed out there. Over here, sometimes this one can look a little bit ragged. Over here, all the ones with the yellow blooms and things on them, that is my sugar pie pumpkins. I did have one little pumpkin come on there, but it didn't get fertilized or whatever, and it just died off. The rest of the blooms that I'm having are all on male stems, and I don't have a lot of female stems on there with little pumpkins behind them or anything. So I'm not really expecting anything right now. But I think what's gonna happen, I'm just guessing, because I'm just going by my experience with some other plants. I think what'll happen is after a while, as they sprawl, as they get bigger, as my pollinators are around here more, I'll have some of the production I want, and I'll get some small fruits. I'm not really worried about it. It'll happen when it happens. I'm not going to jump in and hand pollinate and do things like that. I'm just going to let it grow and see what happens. I was really worried last year about my Cocozelle zucchini. They did this. I had the most beautiful plants. They were getting huge, and I had all these flowers and blooms on them, but they were all on male stems, and I didn't even see any female stems. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to end up with any zucchini to sell. And after a little while, it started popping, and I ended up with so many zucchinis off those plants last year that it was just crazy. So I'm not going to worry about these pumpkins right now. This is a Cherokee tan pumpkin right there. It's getting long. It's getting very long. I put some wood chips under it the other day just to kind of give it a little something to lay on, but you don't have to do that. They actually will attach themselves to the ground, and they'll get very vigorous and keep attaching themselves to the ground. I just kind of did that the other day because I'm fixing to move this, and I'm actually going to be planting some corn here, but I haven't done it yet, and I kind of wanted to make sure that when I started weed eating and mowing and stuff, this had a little protection. So I laid it on some wood chips, but you don't have to do that. They actually love just attaching themselves to the ground. Spinning around behind me here to my new little bed that I built. It's coming along good. It's doing great. Cranberry beans are coming up there. Down the middle, I planted all of those Ferrer Ozon paprika peppers, and they all seem to be growing fine. They're not shooting up really tall, but they're staying healthy, and they'll hit their spurt here shortly. Hard to see, but along the edges, my sugar baby watermelon plants have come up. They're that way on this corner and on the corner at the end. And then my cranberry beans are all coming up there too. And the cranberry beans seem to be really happy and growing there. So this bed to me has been a success. My North Georgia candy roasters seem to like it where I planted them. They're in the kind of the shade of this tree, but I think they like that down here in our Louisiana heat. And look, this is what I'm talking about. You see all these little tendrils coming off of there? That's just kind of started in the last week. These vines have shot out. Ooh. Now there's a female bloom with a fruit under it. Look at there. Got one. See, they'll do what they're gonna do. I'm not gonna jump in. I'm not worried about hand pollinating. I'm not worrying about forcing anything. I wanna see which one of these plants want to grow here. I've been doing a lot of studying about another thing that I may just talk about in more depth later. I don't feel quite capable of having a really good discussion about it right now, but I want to talk about it later, and that is landrace seeds. It's a whole different way of thinking about your plants and thinking about how you grow and what seeds you save and how you even look at how you garden. And I'm getting very excited about it, and I'm learning about it, and I'm gonna do a little bit more watching the videos and studying, and then I want to just throw it out there to you and see what you think. I think sometimes we can get really hung up on a lot of rules of gardening. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing with me, but I don't like all those rules. I'm not saying I just willy-nilly do things. I try to do things to kind of follow rules, but I don't want to add tons of stress to my life. And so I don't go crazy on the rules. I just don't go crazy. I'm not coming out here at weird times of day and night to do weird things and hand pollinate and put bags and do this and that. I'm not doing it. I just can't do it. If my children's food depended on it or something, yes, I might do that somewhat. But I'm kind of looking at it as these things want to grow. I'm giving them the best shot to grow. They need to grow. And I don't want to be continually expending my energy, which is precious to me, on weakling type plants that may or may not make it. Got one little weakling, I think, in here in my potato plants that looks like it's bit the dust. Not sure what's going on with that. We'll have to check it out. But that's kind of what the concept of the landrace seeds is finding varieties and selecting varieties that are strong for your area. Picking out the survival of the fittest type seeds. Not being scared to grow things right by each other and letting them cross. Just let them cross. And then pick out and select the strongest out of all that and grow that on your property. Whatever your area is, your climate. Find what does the best there and grow that. And in the end, after some work and putting some due diligence into it, you'll actually create varieties that thrive and grow and are more prolific, taste better, and are more nutritious than anything you could ever grow just by growing a straight seed. It's a lot to talk about, and I don't want to go into it today, but it's a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about it here shortly. Well, guess what? My peas are gone. I took out all my English peas right after I did that video the other day and showed them to you and showed you how prolific they were. Just about all of my Thomas Laxtons went down with downy mildew. I mean, it was bad. They went from looking good to being white powdery and turning yellow within just a couple of days. And I could start to see that it was spreading a little bit to the Burpianas down there. The ones at that end still looked good. But sometimes you have to make a decision, and sometimes you have to look at your time and what's coming up and the rain and this, that, and the other, and you just have to make a decision to do things. I pulled them out, and what I did was I went ahead and put a little system of screws on my posts. I have different screws there, and it kind of changes as the ramp goes downhill. But it kind of looks right now like I put up spider webs, for Halloween along my ramp. But what it is it's string so that these Scarlet Emperor runner beans can climb up on them. And so as these long tendrils, these long runners come up off of there, I'm just going to train them to get on those strings. I did this one down here the other day, and it's doing wonderful. I actually put it on the string and it stayed there, but now it's wanting to climb up to the next level. So that's okay. These scarlet runners, man, they are vigorous. Look at this. This little tendril's wanting to go up in my light. Ooh, there it is. Pull it out of there. They are vigorous and they want to grow. And then I planted all of these sweet peas. These are sweet peas right here. I planted those every few feet down the row, and they'll also climb and grow. So hopefully within the next couple of months, this whole ramp hopefully will be covered with these scarlet runner beans, and they put off beautiful, beautiful flowers, and they are supposed to just attract hummingbirds and pollinators, and that's what I need. I won't go over this bed again because I did show it to you the other day. It's got some debris on it from this rain. But this is the Golden Jenny melons right here, spreading out and doing good. My Swiss chard coming along, doing great. And then the Hessel Sugarloaf winter squash. And it's still growing. It's not getting huge, but I don't think the Hessel Sugarloaf winter squash get very big. I think, if I remember right, they only get 1 to 2 pounds or so. So It's on track. Not worried about it. I do think this is the anise hyssop. It has to be. It's just coming up everywhere. And I had planted a bunch of the seeds here. That has to be what it is. And it is so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And they put off flowers too. So I can't wait for that. My speedy green beans in here are coming along okay. They're hanging in there. My ideal market beans are doing so-so. I wouldn't call them vigorous by any means this year. They did great last year on my Hortanova netting, but they were out in the full sun. I put pole beans here because of this long wiring that I had, this tall wiring, and I thought it would just give them a great place to grow. However, I think they need more sun than they're getting over here. What is doing pretty good here is the Mamie Brown's pink tomato plant that I have growing on this end, and then I have its sister plant growing down here on this end. Both of those are doing vigorous and doing great. These are the Blue Lake bush beans, and they're doing like the ideal market. They're just kind of like, whatever, you know, we'll grow a little bit every now and then. We're not being very vigorous. So I'm thinking that unless they burst forth here shortly with a lot of growth, I don't know that I'm going to get much off of them. But that's okay. I'm learning, and I'm also learning that the tomatoes like it over here. So I may end up just kind of interspersing some tomatoes between these cucumber plants later. These are little small Sumpter cucumber plants that are just coming up here. I may end up putting some tomatoes in here and just kind of cramming as much as I can in there, but it seems like the tomatoes like it over here. In the ideal market bed, I have these double yield cucumbers, and these plants are doing pretty good. They came up quick, and they're putting off some leaf growth, and I think I'm gonna, do okay with those. I've still got a lot of seedlings that I've still got started. They're starting now to come along and do okay. They kind of went through a phase of doing next to nothing. I have a bunch of pepper plants down there. These are all tomatoes, and those are some Sierra Gold melons, cantaloupes, I'm sorry. I had lost all my Sierra Golds except for a couple in the freeze, so I was starting some more. These are all tomatoes. I think those are mainstream cantaloupes back there. And then down here are mostly peppers with a few tomatoes thrown in. But just over the last 4 or 5 days, they've decided to grow. So they're doing okay now. They're putting off more leaves, they're getting taller, and they're turning a little more green. It's just, y'all, you can do whatever you want. You can just try. Sometimes they just know. I mean, it's in their genetics. It's in their DNA. They just know when they want to grow and when they don't. And it just doesn't do much good to fight it sometimes. I've just decided to kind of take some of these bricks off my back and just let the plants be. And a lot of times when I let go is when they thrive. My honeydew melon that survived the freeze is coming along. These right here are White Wonder cucumbers. That one there is just like hitting the road. It's doing good. Hitting the road running, I should say. It's doing good. This is an Italian heirloom tomato plant that survived the freeze. See, there you go again. Those that survived the freeze seem to be just hardy. They were good, hardy plants. So I'm definitely saving seeds off of tomatoes that come off of those plants, because they have been through a lot and they have shown me that they're strong. So I want seeds off of those plants. I planted all my pink runner beans down here, and they're growing and they're doing fine, but I've had trouble with a lot of them yellowing, and I've tried to remediate that a couple of times, but they're still not looking great. I would probably say they're starting to tinge back to being green, especially those down there. They look like they're tinging back, but it's just been something it's not their fault probably. It's probably in my dirt. They do get more wet over here. I don't know, but I think they'll eventually pop up. I think they'll eventually set runners, and before it's all over with, they'll be climbing all over these sticks. So I'm not going to worry about that either. Kind of taking things off my list. My Italian Isher lettuce, I eat off of it every day at lunch, and it's still more than I can even handle there. And over here, as always, my cherry tomatoes are just thriving and doing great. Mexico Midget, Matt's Wild Cherry down here, separated by 2 Iroquois melon plants, which are doing great. can't complain at all about what I've planted along this side of my house. It's doing wonderful. These Jubilee tomatoes, man, they're popping. They're doing good. They survived that freeze under my metal pots, and they're doing great. Hopefully I'll have some Dallas Edwards beans coming up after this great rain. And then of course my Spanish Musica beans that I talked about. The rain probably did nothing but help all of my other pole beans that are growing here. They're looking so good. All of those transplants that I just showed you on my porch, that's all gonna go in here shortly. I don't really know where. I'm really not gonna overanalyze it too much. I've got little sparse things here and there. That's a Sierra Gold melon. Got my shishito peppers that I bought, but they're growing. They're actually putting off blooms, and I think little teeny peppers are on there already. But I'll be putting something, peppers, tomatoes, all there. On the other side of those strings, I'll be putting something. And then down here I had two melons make it. Those are Sierra Gold cantaloupes. Those are my Robe Mountain Tommy Toe tomatoes, as well as that one. I've actually got that one right there too. So right here in this gap is where I'll fill in some more of my cantaloupes, I guess. That way they can just kind of trail out into the front yard. I'm seeing something here. I actually made a little sunflower bed there and there. And look at here this morning, just walking out this morning, and they're coming up. I had bought some bulk seeds. I've got sunflower seeds for years. See, they're coming up in that bed too. I bought a 5-pound bag of sunflower seeds for $7.50 at my co-op. I've got sunflower seeds like nobody's business. Did you see how my wood chips just make this like landscaping? Woo, I love it. I love it. There's some fields near our house on these country roads, and they plant sunflower seeds as cover crops. So that's why they sell it in such big bags. I could have got a 10-pound bag, but I don't really need it right now for a cover crop or anything. But I thought for $7.50, 5 pounds, I'm buying it. Because you can buy one little pack at the store for anywhere from $1 to $3 for just a little pack. So why not? These are some melons that survived right here from my freeze, tomato that survived from the freeze. But you see all these empty spots here where I lost things. That's where I've got to be filling in. My lima beans are slow. Lima beans are always slow, but they're green and they're coming along. They'll pop up in a little bit and start climbing these strings. These are some melons, and those are some Cervina Schutzka peppers. Can't wait to see what those come out like. Some more tomatoes. That's Cherokee Purple on this side, and this is Atkinson on this side. All that survived the freeze, and they're still hanging in there, so they'll do okay. I don't have a lot of flowers growing right now, even though I do have a lot of zinnias planted and stuff. But these out here are gardenias, and they're on my bushes. So there are things for the pollinators to get on. Boy, when those azaleas were blooming, you could just hear the bumblebees all up in the azaleas. It was amazing. So there's places for the pollinators right now. And then here shortly, I'll have a lot of flowers coming up. I've got a lot of room in this last bed to be able to add some of my transplants. So I'm ready to do that. One good pepper I have growing here is this sweet banana pepper. I'm wanting to see if I like those. I think I will, but the only time I've ever eaten them is just, on pizzas and stuff, and I didn't care for them on pizzas. But we're going to see. That's Super Sue that made it. Here's some more lima beans that I have. These are colored willow leaf beans. The other ones I just showed you, the lima beans, were the Lynch lima beans. So I'm seeing how those are going to grow. This one has taken off, and this is one of the tomatoes that I don't know what it is. I had actually thrown away the part that it was written on what this tomato was. So, I'm just noticing, I had planted some whippoorwill cowpeas down here, and they're coming up. They're starting to come up. Look at there. I planted them on both sides of this string. It said that they are sprawly and vining, so I felt like I would just plant them over here. I just got through telling you that I had a lot of space in this bed. I did forget I had put these whippoorwill cowpeas down here. That's okay. I've got plenty of other places I can stick tomatoes and peppers, so I'm not worried about it. I actually just figured they needed this string, So I thought I would go ahead and plant them down here. One of my viewers suggested that I grow them, and I had the seeds. I had just never planted them. And she said they put off and do really well. Walking out here towards the highway might seem a weird spot, but I had planted my California Wonder bell peppers out here by this stump, and they seem to like it. They're doing really good. The weather is just now starting to stabilize and kind of warm up, so some of these things like peppers, they just haven't taken off like crazy yet because it's been kind of mild, but they're starting to come up now, and I can't wait. I really love growing peppers. I wanted to show you, you can see the little green all over the place. That's my New Zealand spinach. My little corn patch, my little paradise out here. I just love it. Put all these rows of carrots, all these barrels, I guess, buckets of carrots in front of it the other day, and they're already starting to come up. This is my Nantes half-longs. Got a bunch of them coming up there. This is the Cosmic Purples. I have a bunch coming up. The Ingot, a hybrid that I'm trying to grow. Romance from Johnny Seeds. These are the Envy. I can't sit here and tell you that any of them are doing bad, except maybe the last two. I'll look at those while we're talking. The Long Rouge Sunk from Baker Creek. They're coming up. The Chantenay Red Core. They're coming up. These last two buckets, I'm not expecting anything. And I'm not going to get anything. These are the Lunar Whites. I do see one. There's one. Whoop. There's two. Okay. They are alive. They are alive. I was starting to wonder. This is the Danvers half-long. Oh, okay. Okay, between yesterday and today, they've decided to start sprouting. You run into an issue of whether you should leave these boards on or not. I hear people say they leave them on for a while, but what I found was they don't all germinate at once, but the ones that do germinate, if you leave the board on, they start turning white and yellow and falling over. So my gut instinct is just telling me, like when they start coming up like this, there's more than you realize coming up right there. Just to go on and uncover them. I'll keep them moist, but the dirt's kind of high in those buckets. When they're coming out, they're pretty much running right up against the board, and if they're not getting sunlight, they're not gonna stay strong. So I'm just gonna go ahead and uncover that one. This one I'm gonna leave because it doesn't seem to want to grow. So out of the 9 buckets, the Lunar White is a no-show so far, except for a couple little things. It could catch up. It could be my best carrot before it's over with. You can't judge by anything. Some of these that came up early might peter out. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. And you can chronicle with me how these things grow, because I didn't do anything. I burned out on trying to grow carrots by using all the tips people give. People have figured out how to grow their own carrots in their own places, and it's working for them, and that's great. But when I would do the same things, I never was getting very many carrots, just not many at all. The only times I've gotten carrots at my house is last year when I just threw a bunch in a wheelbarrow with potting soil. And then these are coming up better than any carrots I've ever grown. And all I did was fill these buckets. There's holes in the bottom so that they can drain. But I filled these buckets with dirt from that pile that I purchased. And they seem to be doing fine. So we'll see how they grow. I'll just monitor them and keep them going. I'm not saying just because they germinated, they're going to do great. But they're doing better so far than a lot of the carrots I've ever planted. Everything's growing good in this corn patch, except for the Mosby prolific corn. That's okay. My Mountaineer runner beans along the side, they're just doing wonderful. You can see they're coming up doing great. My cucumbers and okra on this row, all in all, they're coming along. I planted some new seeds in some of the missed spots the other day, and they'll be coming up any minute. But all in all, you can tell I've got a lot growing there. My strike bush beans, just getting bigger every day. And then my bodacious corn. I feel like I'm being redundant because I've showed you all this before, but it's coming along, it's growing. What I did yesterday was all of this bodacious corn, all of the cucumbers on this row, and then my Mosby prolific corn in the back, what's coming up. I went down the side of the row and did a little trench, pulled the dirt back. I put some fertilizer in the trench, and then I hilled them up, it's called. I took the dirt with a rake and raked it towards the base of the plant to cover up the fertilizer. And because I knew it was going to rain last night or this morning, and it did. And so I look for the corn that I have planted here, and especially these cucumbers and all, to really start popping here shortly. The Mosby prolific shouldn't have planted it back here in the shade, I guess. This is about where it starts right here. So you can see I have some, there's a few. And then along that fence line back there where that string is, there's 2 or 3 back there that are hard to see on the camera. All of this over here is what I replanted. Anywhere you see some of these dark spots, that's where I replanted seeds. I'm not gonna lie to you, every time I walk back here and I see this empty real estate, it drives me crazy because I'm wanting to put things there. But we're gonna see, and look, as I'm speaking to you, look here. This is from when I replanted. Corn coming up. Got another corn coming up. Actually, got another corn coming up. There's one there. And there's one there. So they're coming up. Don't know why, but this second seeding seemed to do a little bit better. Well, I'm seeing another as I speak, so I feel a lot better. I want corn back here. I want corn. I want this corn to have other corn to lean on and protect it from the weather. I want corn back here. But if the corn didn't want to grow back here, then I was just dying to replant something. And it looks like I may have some corn. We'll have to see. As the weather heats up, it may end up thriving back here. Who knows? Lastly, my black-eyed peas down this row. Ended up with a little mist spot right there that I really didn't notice before. So I might plunk some more seeds in there. The Tennessee half runners, they're just taking off. They're doing great all the way down. Their germination was darn near 100%, if not 100%. I didn't really talk about the potatoes over near my house. I have a little patch over there, and then I have these. They're all still looking wonderful. Some of them are kind of starting to fall over, but I think that's more just from the height of the plant. And I am starting to see a little bit of yellowing on some of the leaves at the bottoms of the plants, but not all of the plants. In general, they still look lush, green, and pretty healthy. That could change tomorrow. So we're gonna see, and we're gonna see if we end up with some potatoes out of this. I was listening to Travis of Lazy Dog Farm a few days ago, and he was saying that his potato supplier, it's kind of a mentor that's been helping him really learn to grow potatoes. It's a man who runs a company. But his potato supplier was telling him, if possible, if your bug pressure is not too great, and if possible, to let your potatoes not only die down to where they're falling over, but to stay that way a while and just really, really die down. He said a lot of your growth in your potatoes comes at that stage. Even though your plant looks like it's dying, your tubers are actually still growing. I've had some bug pressure at my other property on my potatoes, and I really couldn't do that. I went ahead and harvested because I was having some bug pressure. Here, I'll just have to see. I have some here, I have some by my house. Maybe one spot will have bug pressure and one spot won't. I don't know. But I think I'm gonna try to listen to that man and do what he says and see if these plants can not only just kind of fall over and get bad, but kind of die off for a while, and try to kind of hold myself back from digging them up and see if I can end up with some larger potatoes. Garden tours can go on and on. I'm sorry if sometimes they get a little too wordy. I actually have a lot planted all over the place, so it's hard to just do it really quick. But I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to do some pictures here shortly of before and afters. I'm going to do them at the end of this video, so hang in there. I wanted to show kind of what our yard looked like 4 months ago. I don't know if I said this at the beginning of the video, but tomorrow is our 4-month anniversary. We've only been here 4 months, and yet it just feels like it's home. It just feels so good. When I open my door, heck, not even when I open my door, when I open my windows in the morning, pull back my curtains, it's just like all of a sudden, it's just become this little park-like setting out here. I'm not taking any credit. I'm really not. I had these wood chips I didn't know what to do with. I've never dealt with wood chips before. And then what I found is just putting them around everything makes it feel like landscaping. So that wasn't free because we paid to get the trees cut, but we did tell them to leave the wood chips. They could have took them with them. And I figured out, I guess, the best ways to use them to really benefit our property and to make it look finished. I guess there's different parts of the yard that feel finished to me now that didn't before, so that helps. I've used pretty much things that were already here or that I already had, with the exception of just buying a few T-posts here and there and stuff, and used the seeds I mostly had. I'm always buying seeds, but if I had to, I could just use what I have because I have so many. It's just been fun. This has been fun. I've taken some things that were already here on the property and just little statues, little iron chairs and things like that, and kind of decorated with what I already had here. And then just other things from my old house. I've kind of used my sugar kettle and things. And it's just all created this mishmash of things that just make it feel like home. So all I have to do every day is just pull back the curtains, and I'm in love all over again, ready to start the next day gardening and growing. So I hope you enjoy the pictures at the end and just see the difference that you can make wherever you're at, the difference you can make in just 4 months, just 4 months. This is Lainey from Hilltop Home Place. I hope you enjoyed the tour today. Hope you're getting your gardens going and everything's going great. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.